Hi and welcome to my tree practice series. There is a playlist with lots and lots of different types of trees. So today I am going to do a palm tree. So I've got this pack of cards as a reference. So this is going to give me a guide as to the shape of the tree. So I'll talk you through it as I go. I've got a little bit of Bockingford here, 5 by 7 inches, and I've just taped it down to a bit of a backing board just so that I've got that nice and stable. I'm going to use a round number 6, and I have got here some yellow ochre. So I'm using some slightly different colours today. You could use raw sienna as well, that would work very well. So I'm going to come in and I'm going from the bottom of the tree, I'm going in the direction it grows. Little bit of water, and I've just dabbed into the neat colour. And I'm just flowing up. So my round number 6 has got a really nice point, and that's really helpful when you're doing branches. I'm coming all the way up. I can also swap to a rigger. So this is a size 2 rigger. You've got a long thin brush on this, and this helps to, it's really useful for grasses and for trees because you don't have to keep dipping it back in. When you've got a short thin brush, you have to keep dipping it back in the paint all the time. So I'm really focusing on the shape here. This isn't a tree that we get in the UK, so this is why it's good to get this sort of reference. So I'm just following all these branches up. I rest on my little finger or the side of my hand to do this. This is giving me a really nice base. Then here I've got some burnt umber, so this is going to be my dark. If you haven't got burnt umber, you could use sepia. If you haven't got either of those, you could use a mixture of ultramarine and burnt sienna. It's quite a nice mix. So I'm just dipped into the burnt umber. I've not dipped my brush back in the water. I want to get some really nice dark and that feeling of shadow and the feeling of these two trunks within one another. It's like one's coming off. So the paint is still very slightly damp, and that's giving a really nice shadowed effect. It's spreading it a little bit. As I get towards the top, this won't be. This will be drier. But because I'm going to do that foliage over those palm leaves, I don't want to put too much dark towards the top. So I'm sort of breaking that up a little bit. Because watercolour's transparent and you'll just see through this, and I don't want to see too much of the branches towards the top. I'm just doing a few little bits. All this tree practice is really helpful. All the time, it's just giving you practice on strokes, on shapes of trees, because trees can be so different depending on variety. There we go, we've got a really lovely tree shape there. And just rinse out both of my brushes. Now I'm using a little bit of Viridian today, so this is a very bright green. You could use a sap green as well. I'm just going to show you how to take this down to a nicer green. So you can see here that it's very, very bright. So if I take a little bit of this and take a little bit of the yellow ochre in, whether that be yellow ochre or raw sienna, it's got enough brown in the mix to knock that back a little bit. You want this colour to be relatively thick. I'm going to bring a little bit down here to start with. So I've got a little bit of shadow appearing. If I rinse that brush out, it's blending up a little bit, and that's nice. You want little blends to happen. This is just now a wet brush that I'm bringing underneath. So I'm getting a bit of ground here basically. And then I need to choose a direction of the light. I'm going to go the shadows on the left hand side. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of shadow just in there as well. That's grounding the tree. Rinse my brush out. So I'm going to come back into this green that I've made. And we're looking to create these strokes. So it even gives you with it, this is why these cards are so great. It gives you an example closer up. So you can start to do these little strokes. So I'm doing this with the number 6. You could do this with your rigger as well. In fact, I might swap to a rigger at a point as well. So this is a very different tree to what we see in the UK. So lots and lots of little fanning strokes. So I'm concentrating really on the direction. So with all the different types of trees, some lend really well to doing a wet in wet wash first. This one doesn't, because it's so fine. It's better to come on to dry. It's quite nice to have a variety of brush strokes. So in a minute I'm going to swap down to a rigger just so I've got some finer ones in here. But it's already looking quite tree-like. So I've got my rigger here. So with this one I can get much more finer strokes. So I'm getting that combination. Variety always works really well, especially with stuff in nature. I'm going to make a slightly darker green in a second, just to come back in. Okay, so if I take a little bit more of this viridian across, it just shows you I can use these pre-mixed greens. And then a little bit of a brown. That's going to make a nice dark green. I can bring that in. That's a little bit still too blue, so I'm just taking a bit more. For some trees that would work perfectly, but for this one it needs to be a bit more natural. So that's given me a darker green just with that same green. What tends to happen is those pre-mixed greens, you use them when you first get them and think, oh, these are very bright. And then they get popped away in a box and never get used because you don't understand how to get those natural greens from them. And can you see now as I'm doing that same action and layering up, so you've got a lighter and a darker layer, and that's giving it much more depth. These little simple tree exercises often look in a way a little bit too simple, and they can be discounted. Think, oh, I don't want to do a tree. But all of this is practicing your brush control, it's practicing your mixing of your paint. And all of these little exercises, over time, it builds up into better knowledge for you. So that's why I do a mixture of bigger tutorials and little exercises like this. So there we go. So that's a palm tree. If you've enjoyed it, please do like, subscribe, share, comment. Let me know what tree you want to do. I'll pop a playlist here and a video here, and I shall see you next time.